Mm-hmm. Oh, it's time, motherfucker. Good God Almighty! All right, we out here. So, what did chat ready see message finally got to display the spinning intro for Logic? There, he says Diamond Hands, and we got Negi on the set. Good God! So it's snowing yet again here in New York City. I remember I said recently to somebody, like, yeah, I think it's the last snow of the season. I think spring is finally coming. No, sir. And it shouldn't going down that way. But it's like a light and fluffy snow coming down on us. And I fell down the stairs and spilled about an eighth of my cup of coffee, which, and I didn't get hurt sliding down the stairs, which is nice. The snow was like a perfect cushion or whatever. But I can only imagine that I just have a few years left in my life where I can fall down the stairs and just be like, well, that was dumb of me, and walk away without major catastrophic damage to my ass bone or whatever the fuck. So that's a bit of good fortune to start off the day. Yesterday, I found 3 or 4 different crypto wallets, like on old hard drives, and I started popping them open. And one, I think, had a third of a Bitcoin in there, which is worth about $13,000 at present. But as soon as I finally upgraded my Electrum version, it displayed as like a corrupted wallet, and I think there's fucking nothing in there. Then I had a wallet that might have been full of Dogecoin, but it came up empty too. And some of the other ones are processing, but most likely they're all just empty wallets. Uh, so I'm gonna have to actually save my money and start earning some side income if I want my dreams to come true. Oh, so much stuff I want to buy, but I'm actually doing pretty well now that I'm like cooking all my meals and not buying much techno. I mean, there's really not much more to buy at this point. Like looking around me, but yeah, like I'm doing a little bit better now. Although it would have been pretty fucking sweet if I actually had $13,000 in forgotten Bitcoin. The thing about found money is easy come, easy go. You can't let it weigh down on you and so forth. Imagine being poor. I can imagine it. Or lemon maybe, and the electric lady goes better than platinum dilithium. Oh, it's alpha mapping is back here. Welcome back. So, yeah, I'm in the process of trying to sell lemon maybe and the electric lady. I really blew one of my most promising shots to an agent by like fucking up a couple of things there, and I'm honestly like most of the agents that I reach out to are gay men at this point, because there aren't a ton of straight men in publishing. Yeah. I want to say that there's almost, and this is just people that I know in publishing. I want to say that there's almost parity between gay men and straight men, and I like gay men. I think they've made the right choice in general, but they come from a different culture than me. I don't have like a lot of their same understandings. Like one agent I wanted to pitch yesterday was like, I just love modern theater. So if you could just relate your book to something in modern theater, that would be great. And he listed like 10 different playwrights. And I looked through those different playwrights, and I was like, I don't know any of these fucking people. And I was like looking through them one by one. And I actually liked theater. So I found a few plays. I was like, ooh, that would actually probably be good. So if they ever start doing plays again, maybe I'll check some of these things out there. But just that kind of, it's like I'm trying to speak to somebody in a different culture, because there's just like a big divide between the way that uh, we see the world. And it's not that I'm like conservative. I'm not. It's just, yeah, man. And I guess another part of it too is like all these people have gone to like Smith College or Wesleyan or fucking Harvard or something like that. And I was educated on the streets. Okay, so also Zach, is there a my laptop is about to oh yeah, it's the same laptop that's about to fucking explode. I really need to swap this laptop at some point. Is there a cinematic universe for my novels? And what's next after XEROS? So no, I tell you, I reached out to the guy who did Astartes, and I got no response from him, which I understand. The guy is just like his email is continually fucking slammed by people, because Astartes was like the best thing I'd seen on YouTube in a long fucking time, and we edited a novel called Space Tars. It was more of a novella. It's only like about 30,000 words. Which was like sort of like a low-tech Space Marines exploring an ancient Hulk thing. But Negi was saying, if I was educated on the streets, I would know I got to put out to get out. Let me see. You can watch opera and plays every night on the New York Metropolitan website. They've been playing them for free. I think Stratum linked to that crazy fucking opera that I was watching the other day. All my friends are like deep into opera. They just fall into that set of people who play role playing games and board games. They all fucking love opera, and I just I missed the boat on it. I'm just now starting to like learn enough about music to appreciate it. You really need to know like a lot of the backstory of these composers and what they were going through to really be able to relate to them as characters, to like have a feeling for their work. And I just didn't have that background. Let me see. Which dude's channel last year when we were drinking? Oh, the Astartes thing. That thing was fucking dope. Even if you didn't play Warhammer, you can be like, whoa, because he's just got such a great. The animation is fantastic for a one man shop, and he just has such a great cinematic eye. That's what makes those great stories. He's very restrained with his musical choices. His Foley is excellent there, and just the choices that he has made with like the shots that he shows and the way that he is driving the action forward. The guy, he's like a fucking prodigy. So, well, for me, I do have one. I'm starting my first draft on my dystopian novel right there. Uh, so, I think don't get ahead of yourself with like a cinematic universe and so forth. If you just set your sights on writing a really good book, that's the first step of the way. And for most people, they have a long way to go. It really takes. I usually tell people it takes about 10 years of writing to put out a book that is good. To put out a book that's great, I can't fucking tell you. I mean, we put out a book that is great, but it was really like kind of an act of magic between the people editing this story and me and my previous editor and the new editor that did just such a fantastic job on it. And it really was kind of like lightning in a bottle that I can't recapture. And I had been writing for almost 20 years at that point to get to a point where I could put out a novel and be like, this is fucking great. But the nice thing about writing is it like you get stronger as long as your brain isn't turning into fucking mush. As long as you're not drinking real heavy, you're doing a lot of drugs, or just wasting your life away staring into television. You'll get stronger the more experiences that you have in life, and the more daring that you can go without fucking destroying yourself. See Hemingway, but just focus on getting one good book. And I tell most people who are just starting out, please start with short stories. For the most part, like nobody is ready to write a novel when they're 20 years old. Like people just don't have a novel worth of material inside of them. There are exceptions to this rule. But for the most part, your first novel will be completely unpublishable because you don't know how to write. For new writers, like the number one thing that you can do for yourself is either start dating a professional editor, which I did. Thank God. Or join like a writer's group and where they do something like the Clarion method of critique, keeping in mind that writers and writers groups aren't necessarily professional editors and don't necessarily know what the fuck they're talking about. Like, and you're going to be attracted to the people who like your stories and will want to hear what they have to say. And you're going to feel an urge to like push out the people who don't like your stories. But for the first like 5 years of your writing career, almost anybody that offers you criticism, listen to them very carefully and try to always have the understanding that they are probably right, because 5 years isn't long enough to learn how to write. And it's only after when you've like established yourself that you can be like, no, that guy doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Like from time to time, you'll see people give me suggestions here on the stream where I'll be like, yeah, I don't, that's a good idea, but we're not going to do that. And it's because I have a very strong vision for what I want things to look like. All right, let me look at this whole thing. I made the universe before I started the novel. That's good. Writing is like lifting. What would it do to take the footwork of a publisher ourselves? So here's like why I'm looking into a publisher for Lemon Maybe. The thing that a publisher provides, like ideally the people there have some market connections. They provide essentially publicity at this point. Getting your book distributed through bookstores and so forth means that you use Ingram Micro as a distributor for the most part. You also have to have an Amazon or an Amazon account. But in terms of distribution, it's not that big of a deal any longer. It used to be difficult to get distribution into bookstores. But distribution to bookstores and bookstores carrying your book are two separate things, right? Every publishing house has people that essentially go to buyers from like Barnes & Noble, and that's basically it, and like a few bookstores that still exist and push their product. That doesn't fucking matter, right? It doesn't matter anymore. Amazon sales are what drive everything in this business now. And to a limited extent, audiobook sales. But really the number of physical people going into a bookstore and picking up a book is so teeny tiny. And like the idea of like getting my books in airports or something like that. Any of that kind of shit would require a major publisher, just because they kind of have a throttling hand at the neck of the distribution chain there. But in terms of like actually putting out a book that's distributed and available to most of the people, I've done that with like my other books. What they offer is marketing for the most part, and not good marketing either, right? Not like stellar marketing, but they at least will have a budget for a book. Like maybe they'll throw $10,000 at it. Maybe they'll throw, like $20,000 if it looks promising or whatever. And all that marketing person is doing is trying to get you reviewed in like Locus and like a few other things. They're trying to get like some buzz generated for this fucking thing on Twitter and so forth. Really, what a publisher, to my eyes, is offering an author is we'll mention you in the same breath as some of our other books that are coming out this year. What do we got here? My friends who are editors did the timeline before I thought about making a novel about it. The only things that sell are left-wing agitation, propaganda, and romance novels. That's not technically true. Write a script and pitch it to Netflix instead. How much does it cost to pump a book like the books we see being pumped on Amazon? So the ones that they think that they can actually make a bestseller out of, some of them will have a marketing budget of between $80,000 and $100,000. But these are for proven authors, topical pieces where they're like, okay, we're going to get payback on our money, on our click-throughs, where they're just doing heavy online advertising and so forth. A lot of my publishing information is way out of date, by the way. Don't take any of this shit as gospel. This is just what I've picked up over the years, and I'm not involved in the money side of things. This is just what I've gotten from talking to other writers and so forth who have big pieces. Most of this shit is applicable too, not to science fiction. Science fiction is largely word of mouth driven still. Like you write a great book, and nerds like to talk about it with other nerds. They get into a fight about it on fucking forums and so forth. But yeah, more and more I'm looking out at the internet and I'm seeing consolidation of services that used to be free into sort of paid type shit. I'm really just seeing a lot of, like crazy fucking corporatization of shit that used to be free. Like a lot of the channels that people used to use to promote themselves and so forth, people have taken control of those channels. And now it's like pay for play, or they're doing some weird fucking thing on Instagram, or Lord only knows. So it's not a rosy picture for having like a great book and trying to sell it. But until you write that great book, you don't even need to fucking worry about it. And it doesn't matter. Maybe you'll get lucky and people will, like something that you wrote that's not that great will resonate with them. But I don't really care about that path. I just care about writing something amazing. And so I'm seeking an agent, and here's why. Like one, you really need an agent for contract negotiation. Like coming into this from the outside, you have no fucking clue how to negotiate their contracts, and their contracts are just as shady as like record label contracts. Really, they will fuck you over hardcore. They'll try to like rope you into shitty multiple book deals. They'll just turn your life into shit, and then you won't own your masters, right? And you'll lose like your right of it's like 1984, Brave New World, and various other novels are in the timeline of the novel. Well, I'll tell you one bit of advice right there while I'm rambling. Don't tell people about your novel, anything about it, until your novel is written and you've completed your edit of the rough draft. And this is not new advice for you. I've given this many times to other people. The more you talk about a project before it is complete, the less motivation you have to complete that project. There's an effect that they've found doing research on students who are working on their dissertations, and it's applicable to all writing. When you're talking about a project, you're taking like the energy that you need to complete that project and just kind of pissing it away. Writing is really largely about doing the work. Like you see me every day in here doing the work of editing and really thinking hard about this. And every day, every single day of my life, I'm writing. And I'm careful not to tell people almost anything. Maybe just like, yeah, I'm working on a book. It's about this. And then done, right? Until that draft is done, don't tell anybody a fucking word. Don't you know, in the book industry, like the music industry, you're expected to give sexual favors. If that were the case, I would have gladly given it up at this point to achieve my goals. I have a tweet out. It's like, we need a new category for people who are willing to sell themselves to get Weinsteined, like where they're totally open to the idea. Yeah, I hate that all these fucking industry executives now are worried to solicit people for sex when I'm in the fucking market. It's like all this like consent, so forth, which is great for the most people. But you have this fringe of women who like it rough. They're really getting dicked over in this exchange. Like, may I put my hand on your shoulder? It's like, oh. But you know, the world is going to change, and it's not going to stay the same. And it's all about adapting. Yeah, definitely stop rambling about your novel until it's done. When your novel is complete, like definitely let us know, and I'm happy to take a gander at it and so forth. The feedback will not be kind. Dying laugh, and that's how it is right there. Um, but so I was talking about the importance of agents, and I attended a panel on contracts and got to sit there for an hour and just talk with some of the top industry people about different contractual things that they had seen, ways they had seen authors get locked into shit and get fucked over. And there were publishers in the panel too, where they talked about like, here's what I'm trying to get from a author and why I'm trying to get it. And that panel really convinced me that I did not know enough about the law to try and negotiate my own contracts, and I would be a fool to do so. Now you can bring in a lawyer too. You can pay $1,500 for a lawyer to look at a contract and tell you what's real and what's what. But they don't have the specialized industry knowledge that that an agent will usually have. And another big part of it is like trying to sell yourself is so fucking difficult, right? Because you have all your inbuilt, you know everything that's wrong with your work, right? You know all the places where you didn't try as hard as you could. You know like what your goal was and how far you might have fallen from that mark. And you have like almost everybody has like a little bit of that imposter syndrome happening. Even somebody who is like as functionally arrogant as I am, from time to time, you know, I like have moments of doubts. And you know, like maybe, and it's very difficult to. I mean, think about one of your friends tells you, "Hey, like, you know, how'd you like to check out this thing that I worked on?" It's very different than another one of your friends is like, "Yo, have you seen this shit that Rory is working on? Holy fuck, man, it's gangsta." You're gonna listen to word of mouth from another source more than somebody trying to show their own shit, just because being a step removed removes a tiny bit of the self-interest, even though like an agent is much more self-interested because they bet that money, nigga. Um, Negi says, I've never doubted myself once in my life. I've never, you will, trust me, it'll come. If you never doubted yourself once in your life, there's a reckoning coming. I want to shout out to whoever is watching us on Picardo. I never, hardly ever go over there to see what's what, but I do like Picardo. I like all the people drawing and so forth. All right, well, so I'm trying to find an agent. Most likely I won't find an agent. You know what I was saying a little bit earlier about there being a divide? I just sharply feel when I'm talking to people who are involved in publishing that they're like, we're almost from two different worlds. Like we've just experienced the world through very different lenses. And from time to time, I'll run into somebody where they have kind of like a similar outlook to me. Like I'll talk to somebody, but invariably they're working on a totally different fucking, they're like selling cookbooks or something like that. Negi says, find an Asian. I'm actually trying to find an Asian right now because I want to learn piano. So I should start dating a girl from China because they all know piano. And if that's racist, so be it. But literally all these girls play piano and none of them want to fuck me. I mean, that's not unique to Asian women. Hold on just a second. Let me get a blanket. Yeah, feet are fucking freezing here. All right. Well, now that I've fully dispirited myself, honestly, there's a chance that somebody will take a bite on this manuscript. It's really good. Oh, you suggested I talk to that woman? Well, I don't think we write the same type of stuff. Like I don't think we would have a lot in common to like talk about. All right. Well, now I want to see you edit. Oh, believe me, we're gonna. So this is chapter 12. The story is XEROS by Zach Z. Wising, as read by the author. This is a story about a prisoner on a space station that's run by a dying star empire called the Hezo Collective Prosperity Sphere. You can see that empire as being essentially a 500 years advanced version of the Communist Party in China. Titled Double Mask. COVID themed Trump book. Fuck all that. I want to write like the stories that I think are interesting. I don't want this topical horse shit. Like, I don't want any part of their bullshit. You know what I mean? This is about what we like. So this is chapter 12 for Lydia. In the previous chapter, there was an explosion on the space station, followed by depressurization, and everybody had to huddle together under like every blanket and mattress in the barracks to keep from being frozen to death. And they all suffered from hypoxia because they were running out of oxygen. And at the very end of it, Pirate and Murderous, two of the other characters, started hooking up. So this is about an interaction between Pirate, who is an actual pirate, and Traitor. So let's get down to it. Chapter 12, for Lydia. After a few nights of debauch, Pirate came to my bunk instead of Murderous's. As I shut the latrine door, I could see her eyes glinting in the dark, serpentine with resentment. Will she snitch? I asked inside the latrine. I'll deal with her after this, Pirate shrugged. Unless you want to go. In the crimson light, he couldn't see me turning bright red. Small blessings. I shook my head and he shrugged. A wiser man than I, Pirate joked. Woman's got a hole in her nothing could ever fill. Do you think the blackout was an attack? I asked, eager to change the topic. Not from the Clabs. We'd all be dead. Likewise, we can infer the reactor wasn't the problem. I'd assume either sabotage or a meteorite strike hit a distribution point. I'd assume either sabotage or a meteorite punched through the hull and hit a distribution point. That would mean mag deflect is down. That would mean mag deflect is down, I guessed. Also, it means no one could figure out how to work the thermal distributors. Oh, did we double up on one up there? No, indeed we did. Boom. Got that point. That would mean mag deflect is down, I guessed. Also, it means no one could figure out how to work the backup thermal. Also, it means no one could figure out how to work the backup heating system while we were freezing to death. I don't think that we've changed this positively here. Oh, yeah, yeah. All right. Pardon me a moment. Okay. Well, let's look at alpha mapping's suggestion here. He says maybe you should make it I'm assuming a sabotage or some space rock exploded at a distribution point. Well, these guys are I don't think either of them would say space rock. I think they would probably use a technical term there. And let's see. Let's see if we can. I'd assume it's sabotage. Mm-hmm. There we go. Bup, bup, bup. All right, so I'm going to give alpha map a point there because it does that did need a little bit of tuning up, and I like it a bit better. So Negi says, "Do you agree a girl who is 17 is past her prime?" I'm too old for young women at this point. Like if she's not like 25, like what am I fucking gonna do? She's gonna be like all bubbly and let's go have fun and so forth, and like why? And any just from my perspective, any woman who will go out with me at my age compared to her age is fucking crazy. 100%, she's insane. Like there's no getting around it. She's definitely insane. So I don't know why it's showing me as like having 0 viewers on the old restream. Let me know if something fucked up happened with the stream. But might just be restream fucking up yet again. Let me take a look and see if we're still live. Yeah, we're live. Just just the view count is off. That's going to happen. Restream might be fucky. Again, if shit gets like super fucked up, you can always go on IRC and message me there. Let's see. Stream's good. 5 viewers on YouTube. Cool. Well, I mean, we're gaining in viewership here. Shout out to everybody who's watching us. We were freezing to death. That would mean mag deflect is down. But more likely, a meteorite punched through the hull. Gasp is too much. Idea. No one here can. Well, they're just speculating here. So they don't actually know. They don't have any deep insight into what's going on in the system. So they can only guess at this point. So I want like a lesser version of Gasp. Buzz rasp. Yes. That would mean Magdeflect is down. So I want is like, wait, that would mean that Magdeflect being down is a big fucking problem for these guys. That would mean Magdeflect is down, I realized. And they couldn't figure out how to reroute the node or work the backups for 4 hours. I struggled to understand how that was possible. Oh, I hate that it does that. There we go. Yeah, see this thing where Pages like kind of fucking hops around on the page breaks there? It's a meteoroid while it's in space. Like we don't do the meteorite, meteor, meteoroid. Only applies to things entering the atmosphere of a planet. In space, they're all meteoroids. Yeah. We very nearly froze to death, the pirate agreed. And they're still having issues. Let's see. All right, so let's read through this a little bit right there. Not from the clabs. We'd all be dead. Likewise, we can infer the reactor wasn't the problem. It might have been sabotage. But more likely, a meteoroid punched through the hull and hit a distribution node. Yeah, they become meteorites when they enter it. So I am going to give logic that 4 hours thing. I think we just cut out 4 hours. It's unnecessary. But I mean, it's a good note from Stratum there, and I might be wrong. Like maybe they follow that same. But my understanding is that they stay meteoroids when they're like, because when we talk about things hitting the ISS, we're talking about micrometeoroids for the most part. So yeah, it's a weird fucking distinction, by the way, but that's just how it is. More likely, a meteoroid punched through the hull and hit a distribution node. That would mean Magdeflect is down, I realized. We were stuck in there for hours. Why didn't they switch to secondary power? You very nearly froze to death. Probably no one left who knows how. We very nearly froze to death, Pirate agreed. And they're still having issues. I like that a little bit better. So, I want to type like feeling my scrotum retract here, uh, because that is the feeling you get. Where like, so again, we find like the need for a word that isn't gasp. I mean, magniflect is down. Oh, fuck off, ads. Effectuation. Yeah, none of these. If the shield was down, it was only a matter of time until we were hit again. Why didn't they switch to secondary power? Probably no one left who knows how. We very nearly froze to death, Pirate agreed. And they're still having issues. Ads pay my bills. Please do not block them. I'm going to block them. Stratum. It's not my fault you work for an evil conglomerate. Yeah, I don't like either of those suggestions, Alpha-matic. I struggle to comprehend how that was. That was how we had it. Hold on, let me just try that there. It was a horrifying thought. If the shield was down, it was only a matter of time until we were hit again. We were stuck here for hours. Why didn't they switch to secondary power? Probably no one left who knows how. We very nearly froze to death, Pirate agreed. And they're still having issues. I felt the chill of the void again. All those faces I'd seen howling in the airlock came back to me. At every execution, I told myself it couldn't happen to me. I was squared away. At every execution, I told myself it couldn't happen to me because I was squared away. Now, I might taste space through sheer incompetence. Life support is quadruple redundant. I boggled at the sheer number of stupid decisions that must have happened to get us to this point. Had the drills executed every competent engineer on the station? Cool. So the nice thing is, like, when we cut out some of that shit ahead of time, later we make the point in like a better way. So we could. Pirate began. Pirate began to say something, but the words died in his mouth. I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't say it. The two of us could almost certainly fix the power routing. The The two of us could certainly fix the damaged node, or at least reroute it. But there was one thing we knew for certain, no matter how bad things got. Never volunteer. Mm-hmm. Let's take a look. Pirate began to say something, but the words died in his mouth. I knew what he wanted to say, and also why he didn't say it. I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't say it. The two of us could almost certainly... Okay, so you want to know why he didn't say that? So what's happening there is Pirate begins... We could... he starts to say something, but the two of them make eye contact. But our eyes met, and the words died in his mouth. I knew what he wanted to say, and why he didn't say it. The two of us could probably fix the damaged node, or at least reroute it. But there was one thing we knew for certain, no matter how bad things got. Never volunteer. And this is absolutely like such a military thing. Did I miss the 2-2? Where the fuck is 2-2? Where? Fucking. Double up 2 there, he wanted to say. Oh, yeah. Oh, I couldn't see that at all. All right, so logic finally gets that point. I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't say it. I want the full sentence there. It's a little bit, we're using more words than we have to, but I want like that moment of, I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't. I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't say it. Then I knew what he wanted to say and why. Not quite. Yeah, I like that. Pirate began to suggest something, but our eyes met and the words died in his mouth. I knew what he wanted to say and why he didn't say it. The two of us could probably fix the damaged node, or at the very least reroute it. But there was one thing we both knew for certain, no matter how bad things got. Never volunteer. Okay. I think I should make it, but our eyes made contact and he stopped. I knew why he did it, but I never felt this way. Am I gay? Let me see. I don't think that there's a huge amount of homoerotic tension between the two of these guys. Although he did just share, hey, it's like, hey, you want to fuck this broad I've been railing, which is like a little bit gay, I guess. But I don't think either of these characters is gay. Like, there's definitely something going on with Trader, but I think he just more needs a father figure than anything else. It was like this on the Ganglion too, Pirate recalled. And then we don't need they there. It was like this on Ganglion too, Pirate recalled. There were 48 fabricators, but only 10 online. And those were churning at half capacity. Command still expected us to produce full output. Command still expected us to produce at full output. The crew of apes they had assigned to service didn't know what the fuck they were doing. The crew of apes they had assigned to serve... yeah. All right, so I like this is serious. Apes might be a questionable word choice to some people. I think we'll apes is a long and storied military history untouched by your Marxist insane. It really is a very military term. Um, and I think in even in like Starship Troopers, although like when we're getting into like fucking Heinlein, we're not doing ourselves any favor. But all right, you apes, get out there. Literally, in the and keep in mind, like at least in the U.S. military, they were like the absolute first to integrate. I have been called an ape. You know, standing right next to like a black trainee, and neither of us thought fucking anything about it because literally, you're all equally scum in basic training, and I just don't. I don't think that many of the people who read this book are going to have that moment of, wait, is this a race thing? Um, but I'll tell you that like what I find often is when people make like a sensitivity suggestion, my immediate is like, that's stupid, right? And then I think about it for a little bit, and I'm like, can we do this in a different way where these fucking people won't get way up their own asses about it? We haven't mentioned race a single time. I don't think it even talks about anybody's skin color. Just between you and me, everybody in the story is like a homogenous, uh, pale yellow color. They're like Simpsons. Um, so, so yeah, we're gonna leave that there for right now. But I understand and appreciate the sentiment, and Stratum's probably right. There are people, but you're halfway through the book at this point. You're not gonna put it down because somebody's called an ape. Um, but also, it's kind of like clunky there. Yeah. Command still expected us to produce at full output somehow. Miss Comma after Ganglion 2. Uh, that crew of apes. I just don't. It's kind of clunky. Oh, I fucking yeah. I just hate like the comma too. Command still expected us to produce at full output. But they were idiots. They were all idiots. On top of that, comma, OPSEC kept pushing. Oh, so I love this part right here. On top of that, OPSEC kept pushing out these security patches that broke half of the functions. So this is like anybody who's been in like a corporate IT type environment. Ooh, I feel this one. So that crew is more. There was a repair crew. I'd love to just put all retards, but again, sensitivity training. I'll call them featured. Juped piggers. The fabricator repair crew was a pack of brain-dead apes. How about that, right? Yeah, it sounds. It's not as maybe, but every yeah. I like. I'm seeing what you're saying. How about this? Yeah, I'd love to have like some kind of aphorism here. Like they couldn't fix their fucking zipper. Like maybe they couldn't piss without holding each other's dicks or something like that. Let's try and think of a those apes couldn't fix a fucking banana, like couldn't fix breakfast. Oh, I like that. Those apes couldn't fix breakfast. That's perfect. Oh, logic. That's a twofer right there. Oh, yeah. Enjoy. That's perfect. Those apes couldn't fix breakfast. Oh, I love it. Oh, that's perfect. I like that we still get to call them apes too. Fucking. Oh, that's so metal. And it's not trite either. It's not like the moment where I was like struggling, like, what? How can we say this? And it's not a like worn out aphorism. Perfect. I hated the fabricator repair crew. Those apes couldn't fix breakfast. On top of that, OPSEC kept pushing out these security patches that broke half the functions. So I want something that's like a little bit different than prompted. I nudged him towards thinking about escape. Making it into a lighthearted joke negates most of the wow, he called them apes thing. The other part of this, too, is Pirate is old. Pirate is like centuries old. And it doesn't track to like the modern context where like your grandpa is like, get them niggers off my porch and so forth. And uh, just for anybody who is complaining, that word was Nigras, like fucking strong Thurman, Strom Thurman, not a hard R there. I don't want to catch flack for something I didn't fucking say, but I will anyway. I don't care. You never told me how you managed to steal a ship. I said, nudging Pirate towards. I think nudging is here. You never told me how you managed to steal a ship, I reminded Pirate, nudging him towards thoughts of escape. Stole? Impossible. Hezo isn't that stupid. AppSec keys the ship templates so mechanics can't fly them. There'd be nothing but empty repair bays if they didn't. No, I couldn't steal one. I couldn't possibly steal one. How'd you get out? I really did build one myself, Pirate grinned. Pirate smiled. Piece by piece. OPSEC didn't lay a hand on it because they didn't know it existed. It was an extraordinary claim. Anyone else would have scoffed. But I had seen a side of Pirate the others hadn't, hidden away in the latrine vent. So I think when we say aside here, we might want to talk about how he's meticulous and kind of indomitable, but neither of those is the right word. Tenacious is pretty close to what we're looking for there. Persevering. Yeah. But I had seen a tenacious side. No, that sounds like shit. Oh, I think that's actually a good drop there. No, he's not obstinate because it's just in the like Pirate has done like in the dark, just fooling her way around with a needle to carve like this little tiny blue domino masterpiece in the dark for months at the time. It's really like somewhere closer to like obsessive. A little blue masterpiece hidden away in the latrine vent. I like that a little bit better. So rather than like just trying to like put this word on him to turn him into something, we remind the reader of something that Pirate did, like a tangible physical object. I nodded. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. I was going crazy, waiting days for parts that were a 10-minute fab. So one thing that I like here is that we're talking about them using sort of like advanced 3D printing shit to like spool up parts in the distant future. And I want the reader to be like thinking about working as a mechanic where instead of like sending away to Japan for like part of a motorcycle that you want to fix, you just wait for it to be fabricated by like some kind of advanced 3D printer. And the fact that their shops are running really slow because their fabricators aren't working and they're dependent on this technology. Earlier, we talk about how the Hezo has forbidden all on-site fabricators, and they're trying to spin up factories again and reestablish logistical chains that aren't there anymore. So it's a critical part. So when Pirate is talking about this here, he's happening before that shift has happened there. Like the ganglion is when things are falling apart for these guys. The fabricators were driving me crazy. I had to wait days for parts that were a 10-minute fab. 10-minute is 10-minute hyphenated? Ooh. I don't think it's hyphenated. Might maybe need a reminder of that somehow. I don't think that we need to. Um, I don't have to reestablish that there because we're already doing exposition about fabricators, right? And it's not a critical plot point that they need to understand. Um, like we already talk a bunch about how things are falling apart on the station here. So a reader who caught the detail the first time around will be like, oh, it's reinforcing this detail that I already know. But they don't necessarily have to because we're really spelling it out here. Oh, you think it is hyphenated? All right. All right, I'm going to take your word for it. He's a hyphen master. I broke regulations and stayed after hours. Um, the fabricators are driving me crazy. I had to wait days for parts that were a 10-minute fab. And I think this is hyphenated. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed behind after hours and cracked the fabricator open. I'd never worked on one before. It was a big risk. The saboteur. Who's these women? Oh, somebody's telling me that she is a no hyphen on full capacity. Fuck me. Oh well, we're not there yet. That's gonna get edited out, but yeah, you're right. God, we're getting all fucking hyphenate. The fabricators were driving me crazy. We had to wait days for parts that were a 10-minute fab. Finally, you could have got that one. I couldn't take it anymore. I stayed behind after hours and cracked the fabricator open. It was a huge risk. It was an insane risk. It was such a risk. I'd never worked on one before, and if they caught me, I'd never worked on one before, and if anyone caught me, I might have been executed as a saboteur. Mm-hmm. Technically drop the. Oh yeah, yeah, we can definitely drop that comma right there. So it's, anal retentive. It does have a hyphen actually. Lol. The fabricator. Oh, I forgot to fucking highlight Spathywah this morning. Well, I think he's like live on whatever. He knows. We do this every morning. Uh, the fabricators were driving me crazy. One night I stayed behind after hours and cracked the fabricator open. That was such a risk. That was such a risk. I'd never worked on one before, and if anyone caught me, I might have been executed as a saboteur. But I couldn't bear to wait 3 days for a 10-minute fab anymore. I figured out what was wrong with her. A minor miracle. Oh, I like that, yeah. Oh, we do need that comma, and we do need the next day. The next day, the fabricators. The next day, our fabricator miraculously starts running at full capacity. Oh, I kind of fuck myself if I do that. Pirate grinned widely. That quarter, my team launched twice as many ships as the other bays. Mm-hmm. Command wanted to know why, and they figured out it was me. I think you need an explanation for how they figured it out. Let me see. Uh, it's really just like the other people are. Command wanted to know why. When they started investigating, I was the obvious culprit. No one else had the chops. The head of the fabricator and repair team made a big stink and tried to have me executed. As you can see, it didn't go that way. Pirate patted his chest. Is the culture so fucked up that Command would punish such an obvious good deed? Absolutely, they would. Yeah, for like breaching the security profile. The head of the fabricator repair team made a big stink and tried to have me executed for tampering with his machine. As you can see, he didn't succeed. Are they Germans or something? Are you authorized to repair the M3 helmet? Kind of culture from Starship Troopers. They really are. Like, keep in mind, like this is a dying empire, so they have like all the Byzantine regulations, and what we get into and what we're trying to establish here is that they're at a point where they're afraid of their own technology. It's like a bottled demon that, and they're starting to see some cracks in the bottle. So when we, in terms of like a time scale here, this is after the Battle of Arcturus, right, where things are falling apart, and then you have this disaster at Tau Ceti, where everything's turning to shit. So like timeline wise, the Battle of Arcturus, then the Silt City Natasha, then a pirate is stationed on the Ganglion and trying to sort of rebuild an armada with this stealth station that the collaborators are not supposed to know about. And even there, they're like disabling things on their machines, and they're nervous about everything, and people are essentially prisoners and so forth. And all this, I think is like, it's not spelled out. Like, we don't say exactly this is the way things are, but there should be a pervasive sense that this is going on. That like kind of catch-22 type situation is like it should be very evident throughout the story, and I think we do an okay job of it. Hmm. They locked him and gave him. I gave the dummies a bunch of make work to keep them from breaking things, and fixed all the fabricators myself. They locked him, promoted me, and gave me command of his squad. I love this. I love it. We're like investigating the Hezo and like getting to talk about somebody working. This isn't like a guy like flying spaceships or like firing artillery or a captain or anything. We're getting to like look at what's wrong with their culture through the eyes of a mechanic, right? And to me, that's fantastic. I really like that. Um, they locked him, promoted me, and gave me command of his squad. His mechanics were all worthless. I realized they were all worthless, so I gave them a bunch of make work and fixed the fabricators myself. It was murder at first. It was murder at first, but soon I had everything humming. I was a hero. I like that, yeah. There we go. But I had made a terrible mistake. It was murder, comma, at first. Maybe add a line of continual transfer of personnel. Wait, let's go back. It does feel methodical, but in a kind of the enemy can exploit this in an inexplicable way. Well, it's absolutely like that's like the problem that they're having there. Um, More so, yeah, we're not like going for Warhammer 40k type heresy and machine spirits and shit like that. Uh, let's see. Uh, Command still expected us to produce it at full output. No, I think we're just trying for too much there. I know what you're saying there, but let's keep it focused on the fabricator repair crew. How'd you get out? Oh, this is where we can do it. Mm-hmm. So initially, his team is floundering because the reactors or the fabricators don't work. Then he fixes them and they start working. Um, uh, okay. And here we can say anyone with promise had been sent off to die at Sigma Draconis. But they were all worthless. Anyone with promise had been sent off to die at Sigma Draconis. I just gave them all. Um, I just gave the dopes a bunch of make work to keep them from breaking things. I just gave the dopes a bunch of let me see. Ooh. I just gave the dopes a bunch of make work to keep them occupied. I fixed all the reactors myself. Mm-hmm. I didn't mean to throw a wrench in there. Oh, did I change fabricators to reactors? Oh, I did, yeah. Yeah. We get into reactors later. It was murder, but pretty soon I had everything humming. I didn't press him. I like this part right here. Pirate had a wistful little smile. A good memory he was keeping just for himself. Mm-hmm. Pirate had a wistful smile, some memory he was keeping for himself. I didn't press him. Reluctant. No, I don't think we can get away with reluctance. When it faded, he resumed his tale. So this is kind of an important aside right here. I like that this is pirate because like after he's like the hero and fixes all the reactors, somebody does something good for this guy, right? Maybe he gets laid, maybe they throw a fucking party, something good happens, but pirate doesn't get into it. He's keeping it for himself, and I like that. It grounds me in the reality of the situation, and I like dropping good from the memory. Caught in some memory he was keeping for himself. I didn't press him. When it faded, he resumed his tale. I made a terrible mistake. I fixed everything and put myself in a situation where I had nothing to do. The boredom nearly killed me. Spare time in a place like this. Spare time in a prison is slow poison. I had hoped if I could keep my head down and make myself indispensable. I made a terrible mistake. I fixed everything and put myself in a situation where I had nothing to do. The boredom nearly killed me. Spare time in a prison is slow poison. I had hoped if I could keep my head down and make myself indispensable, maybe I would find an opportunity to escape. But Ganglion was locked down too tight. The Hezo was never going to let any of us leave. Too Mimi. Okay, cool. Oh, you like the butt? But I made a terrible mistake. Okay, cool. Pirate inhaled deeply. It got to me. Pirate sighed. It got to me. I started to think more and more about taking a spacewalk myself. About taking a spacewalk. Just walk up to the lock one day and whoosh. No more struggling. I must have walked up to that airlock 20 times. I couldn't do it. Conditioning. Let's take out the conditioning. Conditioning was something that used to be in this story, but I removed it. It was just too much of a fucking ripoff of Dune. Lockdown is a hyphen. I'll take it. I understood him completely. I needed a reason to go on. I found it in Bay 9, which had been mothballed for years. It was mothballed because the fabricator was beyond repair. They were so sloppy. Yeah, I like that better than wasteful fools. I had clearance. I found it in Bay 9. It was mothballed because the fabricator was beyond repair. They left power and life support on. I had clearance. Ship ops were so sloppy. Nah, we can just take this out. We don't gain anything by saying that they're sloppy. I had clearance for all the bays. Sometimes I would cannibalize parts from the dead fabricator. Sometimes I would cannibalize it for parts. So this used to be a huge thing in the fucking Air Force. Them just like taking parts out of one plane to fix another one, just because they had like such supply chain issues, especially for like the Warthog and like all their old shit. There's just so many parts of a plane, and just the company goes out of business, stops making that part. The fuck are you gonna do? Like spinning up another one is fucking preposterous. Hmm. I don't know why they didn't just have their own machine shops and shit, but you know, they probably just didn't have the fucking know-how. Military industrial complex, boys. I found it in Bay 9. It was empty and mothballed because the fabricator was beyond repair. Sometimes I would cannibalize it for parts. I never saw anyone else go in. Mm-hmm. Same in the Army, too, with choppers. And yeah, it's still the same way. First wife's brother is an F-16 mechanic or something. And same in the Army with choppers and tanks and shit. Yeah, it really is just band-aid fucking jobs and like pulling shit together and so forth. Um, just trying to keep these planes flying. The planes that we have like no fucking reason for them to keep flying, but you already sunk all this money into them and so forth. It's just, I mean, that's what's eventually going to drag the empire down. It's just like all this fucking legacy cost. Sometimes I would cannibalize it for parts. Clearance looks so weird to me. I'm like at the point where I've been focusing on this for so long that my eyes are like, ooh. I need a reason to go on. I found it in Bay 9. That bay was empty and mothballed because the fabricator was beyond repair. Sometimes I would cannibalize it for parts. I soon realized no one else ever went inside. I was the only one with clearance. Let me see. Yep, we do need that comma on sometimes right here. Putting in the work today. The new chief marine guy just released a report talking about exactly that, how we need to return to disposable equipment in order to fight China and Russia and shit like that. Why are we even thinking about fighting with fucking China or whatever they are? They really have gone like pretty fucking crazy with like their planes and so forth like there. I just think about like Russia in World War II, just them just flying all the fucking Stukas right into the German planes, and like the Messerschmitts are so advanced and like so crazy, and the Russians are like, okay, great. They just start fucking ramming them out of the sky with their yaks. Oh, I just like, yo, what's up? What's up? We have 10 guys for every one of your dudes, and we're happy to kill 8 of them. You know? It's so terrible. Oh, and that's the situation. Uh, all my RL friends who are still in, the Army's been gearing up for 10 years now for a war with China. I mean, keep in mind, they did the same thing they geared up for fucking 50 years for a war with Russia that never came. Full steam ahead. It's fucking idiots, man. Yeah, like, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Life is a self-defeating phenomenon. I mean, that's one way, that is one way where you can just be like, they own half of our fucking country. We'll just blow them the fuck up. God. These idiots are going to get to the point where they'll be like, okay, now we think we have the satellites where we can shoot down 70% of their incoming ICBMs, and we don't really like California anyway, so let's fucking do it. And you just have, I'll tell you one good thing though, probably in their modeling, they're like, well, if we kick up enough fucking dust, maybe we can avert this climate disaster. It worked in Iraq. That's when I got the crazy idea that maybe I could build my own ship. Impossible, I breathed. Ha! Pirate said. His hand rose to cover his mouth. He'd gotten carried away. You see, there were so many levels of security. Ganglion was teeming with factions eager for their turn at the wheel, all suspicious of each other. Yeah. You see, there were so many levels of unnecessary security. I always do this. Yeah, the 1C and like, why all these fucking S's and bullshit word? There were factions in command, all suspicious of each other, vying for their turn at the wheel. I did an essential role and never squeaked. My superiors started to see me as part of the machine. Then they forgot I existed. I love this part right here. I have been a big shout out to Silos. Fuck. No, but I think anybody who's worked in like an infrastructure type role uh, realizes that at some point they just see you, like if you do your job right, you just become like a cog in the machine, and it's assumed that you will always do your job. I filled an essential role. Oh yeah, yeah. We could do performed. I performed an essential role. I filled an essential role and never squeaked. All right, so we've already established that the fabricator there is beyond repair. So like, yeah, he can't run that fucking fabricator. And all the time in the world. I had nothing but time. I like that and there. My superiors started to see me as part of mission. Let me see. See me as part of the machine, and then they forgot I existed. I had nothing but time. That's good. That's a good and. Each time I serviced a reactor, I keep calling them reactors. Each time I serviced a fabricator, I was required to do a test print to make sure the heads were aligned and everything was up to spec. There's no comma there. Reactors are dope. And there's a reactor later in this chapter too. Let's go. I was supposed to dispose of the test parts, but I didn't. I brought them to Bay 9. Bit by bit, I built an entire pinnace. It took 5 years. 5 years, I hissed. How old are you even? Too old, Pirate grinned. Where'd you get the reactor? How'd you mount it? Pirate snapped his fingers at me. No, I don't like that. Because it makes sounds to snap fingers. And favored me with a nod. Favored me sounds kind of weird. Pirate tapped the side of his head. Smart kid. That was the hardest part, the last piece of the puzzle. The reactor and the dead fabricator was still good. It was a four-man job. It had me stumped for a long time. Pirate smiled again. Yeah. Let's make it a two-man job. It had me stumped for a long time. Pirate smiled again. A funny thing happened. One day, Ganglion's rotational guidance array malfunctioned. The whole ship spun down to 0.1 G. It was pandemonium. It just so happened, that I had a crane lined up and ready to go in Bay 9. Even at a tenth of a gravity, pulling and mounting that reactor nearly killed me. But I did it. My new ship accepted the reactor, and everything came online. By the time the dolts and ops had ganglions spun up again, I and my new ship were halfway out of the system. I named her Guernica. Gangsta. Tenth of a G. Yeah, let's do that. You're not even a tenth of a G. You think he just says too old? Too old, Pirate grinned. No, I like too old. A little bit better. And then I think you got your hyphen point for... No, you didn't get your hyphen for four-man job. Or your point for the four-man job hyphen. But I did it. Now let's go through this again. A funny thing happened. One day, Ganglion's rotational guidance array malfunctioned. The whole ship spun down to 0.1 G. It was pandemonium. It was pandemonium on board. It just so happened that I had a crane lined up and ready to go in Bay 9. Oh, there's no comma there. Even at a tenth of a G, pulling and mounting that reactor nearly killed me. But I did it. My new ship accepted the reactor and everything came online. By the time the dolts and ops had ganglions spun up again, I was halfway out of the system. The pinnace accepted the reactor and everything came online. I named her Guernica. Pirate's eyes grew lustrous with the beginnings of tears. For a whole week after I escaped, all I could do was laugh. Every time I thought of OXSEC, looking around that empty bay with stupid looks on their faces, Ah, it was glorious. I just sailed and sailed through empty systems into the deep black. I didn't need anything or anyone. I was reborn. Tell us why he named the ship after the horrible target of a bombing. It's named after the Picasso painting. Um, I mean, pirate is, after all, like an artiste. Uh, but yeah, it's a great work. The tears came. Pirate wept in the dim red light of the latrine. The Picasso painting is also about the bombing, but wait. Let me see. Yeah, I mean it's about the bombing and the aftermath. But yeah, it's just his choice. I love that painting. Um, the tears came. Pirate wept in the dim red light of the latrine. Of course, I was so selfish. I cared only for myself in those days. That's all over now. I understand I have a role to play and a debt to pay, Pirate said. Echoing the lines the drills had hammered into us 1,000 times. Thousands of times. No. Then he lifted his head, as if hearing a distant note. But they can never take my voyage away from me. I was a man. I was free. In the text, maybe explain why that choice was made. No, I don't want. It's just a capricious choice. Like, well, and I don't want to like. Unfortunately, like, we can't use like the Quixote mythos because fucking The Expanse already covered that one, assholes. I really did not like The Expanse. I was just putting it out there. What did I eat today? I haven't eaten anything. I won't get to eat anything until like noon. I guess I've had half and half in this coffee. That's something. I think it's a fair thing for Stratum to say, but also just from a tempo base, I don't think I can spare the time to talk about why he chose that ship. Because in this chapter, we haven't gotten to the Lydia part at all. I set a hand on his shoulder. I set a hand on Pirate's shoulder. I hadn't touched anyone by choice in a long, long time. Um, I think that's true. Uh, he nodded, and I retracted my hand. Feeling awkward. Something had changed after the blackout. We'd all been on edge, suffering from feelings that were raw and excessive. I wondered if they. I thought The Expanse was very enjoyable. I haven't watched the show yet. I just and honestly, like when I'm like I didn't like The Expanse, I would give The Expanse like a 70. The book, like a 74 to 76, right, in terms of whatever. Um, so when I was actually reading it, and I like a lot of the things that they did, but ultimately it didn't make me want to read the second book. And like looking back on it, there were just like a lot of things about it I just didn't like. And I think it's more like a stylistic choice. Like a lot of the things about the way that they see the future don't jibe with what I thought would be, and like also their um the ending of the book I thought was really stretched my suspension of disbelief like a little bit too hard. Um, and we're gonna get into this a little bit too because there's no anti-gravity in the story so far, and I would really like to keep it that way. I would really like to have this be a gravity exists and like its effects must be dealt for within the text. And when you get into that, you have to deal with like so many things about zero gravity and so forth. No more saltpeter in the synthetic eggs. You did the books on the show. Well, let me know if we're directly ripping them off anywhere, because that's one of the few pieces of space opera that I've read recently, and I don't want to be ripping them off completely. But at the same time, it's difficult because I think one of the big things that they developed there was they really did a decent job with their treating of fights in space. Like they do a lot with like acceleration couches and shit like that. Other people have done that. Like that's a factor in Old Man's War, or whatever the Joel Edelman series was, the Forever War or whatever he did, where they would get sealed up in like these big mylar pouches and like anything you talk about in science fiction has been done by other people, but it's just a matter of what's at the forefront of the public consciousness of your average reader, where they'll be like, oh, I've seen this shit before. This isn't interesting to me. And I don't really read enough to get all that, which is like one of my biggest failings as a writer. I don't read a tremendous amount at the moment. He nodded, and I retracted my hand, feeling awkward. Something had changed after the blackout. We'd all been on edge, suffering from feelings that were raw and excessive. I wondered if we'd been on mood stabilizers this whole time and the supply had finally run out. Well, now you know. Now you know why I became pirate. Why do they call you traitor? Pirate asked. Gregory Benford. Oh, just don't name your world-changing spaceship engine the Epstein drive. Oh, they really fucked it. I mean, it's fine. Oh, Gregory Benford. Well, now you know how I became pirate. Why do they call you traitor? Pirate asked. I swallowed, wishing I hadn't made the deal. It's stupid. I didn't do anything interesting. I hedged. I wanted so badly to weasel out of telling him. But Pirate would not be denied. He kept staring at me. Lydia, I said. Lydia, I confessed. That should have explained everything. But Pirate was too old. His eyebrows arched. Who's Lydia? A succubus program. They rove the nets, looking for lonely men. When you fall for one, they slowly win you over to the collaborators. A program? Pirate was dumbfounded. It's slow and subtle. On the anonymous nets, they look like any other chatter. They play games with you. You become friends. They find out everything about you, all the things you would never tell anyone. Anytime you're down, they're there. They're always interested in what you have to say. Lydia's care, in a world where nobody gives a shit about you. If you're in trouble, they'll lend you money or help you fix things with the police. I knew it was too good to be true, but I couldn't stop. They know you, every part of you. They accept you in a way no humans would. They accept you in a way no human would. Nobody ever wanted me like that. Nobody ever loved me. So I flipped and joined the collaborators. For a woman that didn't exist? She exists. But you could never... I mean, she has no body, right? You never fucked her. I shook my head. I had never fucked anyone. I was going to serve my time in the clabs and get pattered into tie D, so I could be with her always. But then the Hezo conquered Kilo. They severed the nets and I lost her. I fell into a deep despair. If you're in internet relay chat alive and well in the year 2020, 2110, we'd be at like 2600 right there. But yes, internet relay. It's my story, and I can have IRC in it if I fucking want it. It's not even IRC. It's the anonymous nets. And so this is all in second person, but it's him talking. It's not the narrator going into second person. I fell into a deep despair. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Finally, I went to a zishi. So zishi is another Chinese portmanteau. What's that? Suicide merchant. But instead of waking up dead, I was a prisoner here. The Hezo had taken the place over, turned it into a trap. You betrayed mankind, Pirates said, pulling away from me. Yes, I admitted. For a moment, he seemed on the verge of turning away in disgust. But then, But then he was captured by a sudden zeal. But you changed. You're the best pilot, the hardest worker. You never whine like the others. You must have seen the light. Yes, of course, I said, quickly. I'm ashamed of what I did. I can only hope to redeem myself through the mission. I searched him with my eyes. It's ridiculous. Why would I ever type that? I searched his face, scanning for some sign he believed me. Even if I was going to die, I didn't want it to be in an airlock. Pirate clasped my hand ferociously and thumped his other against my shoulder. And clapped me on the shoulder. It's always darkest before the dawn, brother. Victory is destiny. They had him still. And then chapter 13 is going to be loose lips. Let's see if we got that comma on yes. Of course. It's just like it's a teeny tiny origin story with Trader. So let's go through this real quick because I just went through that really quickly. The hour's getting late. But also, well, now you know how I became pirate. Why do they call you Trader? And so he's loath to admit this, that he was just like a lonely and horny teen that got swept up by a succubus program. They rove the nets looking for lonely men. When you fall for one, they slowly win you over to the collaborators. A program? Pirate was dumbfounded. It's slow and subtle. On the anonymous nets, they look like any other chatter. They play games with you. You become friends. They find out everything about you, all the things you never tell anyone. Anytime you're down, they're there. They're always interested in what you have to say. Lydia's care, in a world where no one gives a shit about you. If you're in trouble, they'll lend you money or help you fix things with the police. I knew it was too good to be true, but I couldn't stop. And she accepted me in a way no human could. Nobody ever wanted me like that. Nobody ever loved me. So I flipped and joined the collaborators. Completely unexpected for me that Pirate is so brainwashed. We like established that a little bit earlier that they still have him. In fact, like all the other characters, the brainwashing works. A Traitor is like the odd person out. He's the only one that's really noticed that they're all going to die. So that's really what makes his character unique among these people. I like that we swap it to, she knew me, every part of me. She accepted me in a way no human could. For a woman that didn't exist, she exists. This is a critical line for Traitor and his character right there, where he won't say she doesn't exist, she exists. And it's very different than she existed. When he says she exists, he, like, in his mind, she still exists. But you could never, I mean, she has no body, right? You never fucked her. I shook my head. I'd never fucked anyone. This is a big reveal for that character right there. Oh, you missed the pirate intro chapter? In a few different places, it's been established that, because remember that Trader is considering, like, can we break out together earlier? He's just cucked himself with rationalizing it. Well, they still have Trader. Like, Trader is not out of their grasp either. He's still going along with this shit. Everybody's like a little bit trapped here. And this is, I love this point. I had never fucked anyone. Key to everything that'll happen later. I was going to serve my time in the claps and get patterned into Tai D so I could be with her always. So here, to people who are like very familiar with science fiction, they already know what Tai D is and what it's all about. To people who are not, it's going to take a few more chapters for them to figure out what's what. But the jig is up at this point. But then the Hazo conquered Kalo. They severed the nets and I lost her. I fell into a deep despair. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Finally, I went to Azishi. What's that? A suicide merchant. But instead of waking up dead, I was a prisoner here. He wasn't here. The Hazo had taken the place over and turned it into a trap. Okay. Now I know why they call them collaborators. It all becomes clear in this thing. So I like that the Hazo takes over a suicide merchant, and all the people that go in there to try and kill themselves just get fucking inducted into the military as prisoners. That to me is like a very classic Hazo move. And here, where Pirate says, "You betrayed mankind," and Pirate pulls away from him at that point. Really there. Yes, I admitted. For a moment, he seemed on the verge of turning away in disgust. But then he was captured by a sudden zeal. But you changed. This needs an exclamation point. You're the best pilot, the hardest worker. You never whine like the others. You must have seen the light. Yes, of course, I said, quickly. I'm ashamed of what I did. I can only hope to redeem myself through the mission. I searched his face, scanning for some sign he believed me. Even if I was going to die, I didn't want it to be in an airlock. Pirate clasped my hand ferociously and clapped me on the shoulder. It's always darkest before the dawn, brother. Victory is destiny. They had him still. Ooh, love with this chapter. So now that you know what it's all about, and don't spoil it for other people in the chat, how do you feel about this big reveal? Do you feel like it was built up to sufficiently? Do you feel like it kind of like unlocked, like, oh, that's what's fucking going on right there? It's not meant to be like a big mystery, right? And I think some people will guess what's going on a little bit earlier in the story. And our interpretation of what Tai D is very different. It's a little bit patterned on a guy I've talked about a bunch, Olaf Staple. Oh, you like this one? Good. That's where we want to be. And this is right around the point in the story where I want people to have like a little bit of like dawning comprehension as to what's going on here, because the rest of the story is we're gonna go like maybe 20 or 30 more pages there, and then the rest of the story is the mission, right? And so really we have kind of like two books happening here. We have lead up to the mission, and then we have the actual execution of the mission, and the execution of the mission is going to be more dry science fiction adventure type stuff, and then, like, without spoiling too much, we have the big reveal at the very end of it, and Trader has to make a decision. So within that framework, you can guess some of what's going to go on here, but ultimately, yeah, it's pretty solid overall, and I'm very, very happy with how this chapter turned out, and the relationship with Pirate has turned into like a great tool. Now, another thing that I want to consider as we're going through this whole thing, I'm not satisfied with the outcome for Pirate. I think we we kind of do them dirty, and I think that people will be a little bit disappointed with how that turns out. That may be a point where we rewrite. So I want to keep my eye on what goes on with Pirate and what we can do and what we should do with that character. So I have that in mind. This is a short chapter. It's only 1,900 words, but so much of the book is hinging on this guy. So and then we were doing this for... We started at 6:42 a.m. So it's 9:06 a.m. So we went on for... I can't even fucking do math here. 18. We went for 2 hours and 24 minutes. If I'm doing my math right. So yeah, like we did some good work on this chapter. So tomorrow, chapter 13 is Loose Lips. So you can see where this shit is going right on the way. And Loose Lips is a great title for this chapter, as you'll see why. Yeah, so 223-ish. I think you came in a little late to the... I think it's 224 total. Very, very happy with this chapter. I mean, this is really... Up until this point, I'm satisfied with everything in this book. So it may be that our second half is weaker, because the second half is where we're going further outside of like the things that I know. Like I feel very confident writing about like the human experience and writing about being in a prison. And I think even though like some of our stuff is kind of science fiction and fanciful, it's been pretty decent. But the second part of the chapter is where we start to get into physics and mathematics, and where we may need assistance from external people and so forth. Friday night I will be drunk back in time. Saturday I think I'll be around after dinner. I like this stock. All right, good luck there, Diamante Handos or Diamante Manos. I guess that's not even close to good Spanish. All right, so have a good day, and thank you so much for all your help on this logic. Shout out to Negi if you're still there in the chat. Stratum, good suggestions. And did Bitcoin go up again? Fuck. I should, if only that wallet had actually had a third of a Bitcoin in it. All right. Aloha, and everybody have a good day.